Kia ora tātou. Ingoe te tīmatanga, me tuku ngā whakamoimi ti ngā whakawhetai ki te runga rawa. E honore e korore maunga rong kiringa te whenua e whakaaro pai ki ngā tangata katoa pāmini. Kia ora everybody. It's a real privilege and honour to be here this afternoon, and it's good that the house is full of all greenies, eh? I stand before you, but before I start my speech, I'm taking my political hat off. Because I'm not here to talk about what we do in mana, but I'm here to talk about what's happening on our foreshores and the disaster, the small disaster that has taken place in Tauranga. Now, it may sound that I'm contradicting myself, and perhaps I am. I started in the drilling field in 1978, and I finished on the Maui B in 1994. Now, that's a hell of a lot of experience. I went drilling because I took my OE and worked my way back to Scotland, and if you can recall the name, it's McClutchie. And I went back to do research on my whakapapa and genealogy to my people that live in Scotland. My ancestor came over in 1836, so he was actually here before the signing of the Treaty of Waitangi. He lived in the Chatham Islands and created our tribes, first in Taranaki, of course on the Chatham Islands, Tūwhare Toa Taupo, and back into the East Coast and spread all over the world. Now, working on these oil rigs has been very difficult, and I can hold my hands up and show you I've still got all my fingers. We have seen many disasters out there, but we carry on working because, I mean, one of the main issues was when my dad died, I left him what we call an ohaki, a promise. That was to reinstate our land, which was being sold down the tube by not only our local Maori affairs and Māori trustee, but the government. They took over control of everything, and what you call the death duty that was on my grandfather, being McClutchie, who actually leased more than 15,000 acres. We now have only about 500 acres left that we can actually farm. My whakapapa starts from Toi Rākau in Uepoatu. Our people never came with the migration. It was Toi Rākau we actually married into the hapu one o mā tātua, Kapu, Te Rangi, the Pā, and their people. Now, we are a branch of them that still live on our land today, and that land is very sacred. Now, coming back to the oil drilling, and we talk about fracking, we talk about everything else. I don't think you guys have an idea, one idea of what takes place on those drilling rigs. Now, I've worked on every type of drilling rig that has come offshore. The drill ships, the semi-submersibles, the platforms, the barges, and also the huge moving equipment like the Blue Whale that was off Australia. And I've drilled in just about every sea in the world, so the experience has been great. And we see the devastation that happens where we have the whales coming through Taranaki there. And I've also been part of actually building rigs in Korea. Now, it was quite sad when I was there in 1988. I spent a whole year there on the best money possible, $3,600 a week, where the Americans pay everything for us. They fly us out, they do everything. And I was kind of blinded by the money. But the ohaki that I promised to my dad, I will make our whenua right. And at the end of the day, we have made it right. But at what cost? Now, while I was in Korea, I started on the Piper Alpha in the North Sea. Now, that was a hell of an experience. We had to have a passport to fly out to the Norwegian sector from Aberdeen. I lived in a small town called Inch, by the way, next to Inverurie. And every time we went out there, we had to have our passport. But I actually witnessed the burning down of 36 wells on the Piper Alpha, and the destruction not only of that platform, but 164 friends I once had. Now that was devastating. We built the Benriock, as you know, that came around the shores of New Zealand, and we did the wells. We went right down as far as the Solander Islands. Now that was a hell of an experience. But at most times, you know, if there was excess diesel or waste in there, at night it was just pumped over the side. Pity this didn't come a little bit earlier, so we'd stop it straight away. But having worked on the the Maui B, I witnessed firsthand 2 of my friends being killed, and that was quite sad. We had a blowout on that rig that I shouldn't be here today because the condensate was so thick. That means the gas, a big pipe about that big blew out. 3 guys were seriously injured, and then we tried to get ashore, but the oil companies wouldn't let us do that. Now the 702 Sedco actually left for Australia not too far after that. The wells are in production now, and they're making oil out of it, but at what cost? Now I guess my message today is, what part of no drilling don't we understand? All of us, what part of no drilling don't we understand? We do have a way of creating sustainable energy that we can have here in our country, and we will be richer for that. You know, and these are part of our policies with mana. Kia ora nā, so, you know, put that hat down there. You know, the devastation on just one ship. You know, one ship that was damaged on the reef in Tauranga. And we've gone down to the beaches ourselves, we've helped out, and but we were lucky, still around that Awanui and Tuparo, that there are fragments of oil coming in there, but we've taken photos of some of the seals that are still alive and pure. So, you know, God only knows what would happen to them in the future. This is devastating. I mean, it is really devastating. And the economy of this country can be built on the farms on the East Coast, from perhaps the forestries where we have an alternative source of finding that energy. More housing, as we say, and that will create more jobs. But I'm here on a cultural journey, and to start my kōrero with a karakia means we are still in touch with our old people. Now, the environmental people feel this as well, and God bless you for being so strong. And we need to fight this together, not only in Parliament, but throughout our area. As was said earlier, we sit on 2 major fault lines. And the wells can be controlled because at the bottom of the wells is what we call a base plate and a BOP, which is a blowout preventer. But if we have an earthquake of a magnitude of only about 3 or 4, and that line from the BOPs down to the drill string, which is a 36-inch casing that goes right down to about 4.5 inch, to where they move out, what I say, horizontally, and they begin the fracking through Schlumberger and other contractors. We can't stop that, because just a small shift of 2 meters on that wellhead is going to have all that oil pouring into our environment. Now in the Gulf they were drilling at 1,500 meters. We are going to be drilling, if they allow it to go ahead, if we do not stop this, of 1,500 meters in the Raukumara Basin. And I can't thank Ani and all the strong people who have stood up to the cry of the people. And the people must get out there and fight not only this, now, and I hope you get in, take this down to Parliament and fight on our behalf. because we cannot have this happening in our backyard. And while I'm on watch, this is never ever going to happen. I'm prepared to go and strap myself against one of those damn reefs and chain myself there. Not to get publicity, but to show them that we mean business. There is alternative energy, and we can use that. So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't need to go any further on this issue. You know, just say no drilling today, tomorrow. Like we hear what John Keys is doing. He's still continuing to sell licenses out there. Yeah, how good is that? Do you want him as a leader, or do we want Narehania or Parekura? Now, we've got to be serious about this, and we must stop it. And when we say stop, we mean stop. Tie our cultures together. That is so important. Because without a true culture, we do the haka. We won the World Cup. But this haka is going to be the greatest haka of all. Because we do not want any drilling. Kia ora tātou. Any questions? No political questions, please. But that is a long time to spend in the industry, and I didn't know when to say stop. But when you lose your close friends, you know, you've got to make a decision. The money was so damn good, but there is more than, you know, money that is at stake here. You know, the crayfish are walking up on our beach house there. You know, all the devastation, this oil. I have 2 samples, one from the Maui and one from the Maui B. And they say the oil on the coast is the best oil out. So what part of no drilling don't we understand? And that's all it is. With the environment, with our brothers and sisters from the Green Party, from the Māori Party, from the Labour Party. We must stand together on this issue, and we must be very strong about it. And stop the drilling. Stop the drilling in our backyard. Kia ora tātou. Any questions? Aye.
I just wanted to ask, when you talk about drilling here in the Rokumura Basin,
Yes.
how deep before would they actually start drilling at the seafloor? They're talking about up here.
How soon did...
How deep?
Well, the depth of the water in the Rokumura Range is about 1,500 metre to maybe about 2,000. Other places it's quite deeper. But what they do is they send their survey ships out, they sound it, they find the best area to drill. And from that position they can put down 30 or 40 wells. Now this is what we call directional drilling. They can drill back under the land if they want to. They don't have to come ashore. So, you know, it's things that, yes, another question?
Yeah, and as you say, if they put a blow-up event on the bottom on C4, if the blow-up event doesn't work, what's plan B?
There's no real plan B, and we can't say whether it's going to work or not. But all I say is that if there is a shift with an earthquake on no more than 2 or 10 metres, how are we going to stop that? Look at how quick, and I don't blame the government, but how quick the reaction was when the Rena ran aground in Tauranga. Now we know that the most professional people in the world with handling oil rig disasters is Red Adair. I don't think anybody knew anything about him. He would have been here at a drop of a hat. He would have probably moved that ship off there and taken it to ground where no more oil would have come out of it. The rescuing all those containers would have been underhand. But it took us, I think, 3 days?
5 days.
5 days.
And then the weather turned south.
Yeah, and the weather. Any more questions? Yes?
You said that they can actually drill from there, directionally drill back.
We,
So why then don't they drill on land and drill out?
because they have the responsibility when they start fracking of how much poison they're going to pour down that hole.
Yep.
And Schlumberger and Halliburton are companies that are professional of creating the fracturing. The fracturing must be done horizontally. And they blow holes in the end of the pipe, which is a 4.5-inch steel casing. And that allows the oil to come through, and it's circulated through the system back up to the pumps into the reservoirs that they can actually ship off or hold off. A lot of that is done out at sea. But the fracking is something totally new that we're not aware of. But they do this because it's cost effective. It's cheaper. But you take all this oil, where are they going to place all the oil that's coming up on the shore? And this is a different type of oil. The oil will not ever break down. Where are they going to put it? In our backyards? Shall we dig a hole in John Key's garden?
Yes.
Yeah. But that's what it means. But we have very professional people out there. But the blowout preventer has 3 shear rams at 3 different levels. Some are actually bigger. Perhaps you might have worked on the oil rigs. But they have that connected to the drill string, which comes under the floor, whether you're on a semi, a platform, or whatever. When they drill down, and they can go anywhere, cut around corners, and find where that oil is, and they just suck that up. It is about profit. It is about the economy, but at what risk?